Line up in the morning and stare at your shoes, like meat for a gaffer to pick and to choose. With a tap on the shoulder, he gives you the sign. You can hump call all day for 2 shillings and 9. I'm telling you, Jack, life's not the same when you spend your day loading that 100 ton.
I'm not going to call on Alan Martin to kind of keep the history alive. We've been collecting photographs, and Alan's picked some just totally at random, and he's going to tell the story behind them, I hope.
Lead the way.
Now we'll be okay there. Everyone here okay?
Yeah.
Now I'm just waiting on Niamh to get the operation going. And this was one of our early operations. This was the march to the service in Lawrence O'Toole's church. And Total Lawless, unfortunately, had to be in a wheelchair at the time, and he was one of the more active men. As Dara said earlier, he was one of them who could fly up and down the ladder in a blue funnel ship, laden and unladen. But times have moved on, and this is where we are now. So, take the next one. Now this is a picture where, lucky enough, we have been recognised at last. I mean, here with Audrey McCready and the late Jimmy Carty, where a group were awarded a Heritage Hero Award. Runners-up, unfortunately, we didn't win the main prize for what we are doing in preserving the history of the Dublin Docks. And I'd like to think that all those who have contributed, even small photographs and items, are all part of that award, and we will carry on as long as we can. Now, this is what could be called a heavy gang.
No.
Extremely heavy, and you can see a slightly slimmer version up there on the picture. But these men all worked ordinary cargoes over the years. But you can see there, they drove those massive machines. And you see, you want to be really on your guard when they're flying around, because they took no prisoners. And each of those machines could lift 30 and 40 ton containers. So we move on. Now this is something you wouldn't see now. This is when Guinness barrels were put along the quayside, and these were just local kids running along the top of them. Now obviously these days they don't allow barrels to lie along the quayside anymore, but also health and safety would have a fit if they were to see anything like this, but that was just the normal in those days. Okay, Niamh. This is a fairly historic photograph. Most people know it's just a picture of cargo, but this is actually the first cargo of Spanish onions to come into Dublin after the Second World War. And that's probably the reason why it was taken. Up to that, everything had to go through England. But after 1947, that was taken. And Valencia onions, 30,000 crates of them came in. So that was the start of the boom in the Dublin docks. Now, this is a reenactment. What those people are sitting on is the last of the Dublin ferries. You know, the Liffey ferry that runs back and forth. That's the last of them. And that was a day when the port authorities allowed the ferry to go back on the River Liffey for one day. Now, it seems it's going to be refurbished and allowed back as a tourist attraction, where they'll have 12 people all geared up with health and safety and life preservers on them and yellow jackets. But that's just a picture of people in Ringsend on a happy sunny day, somewhat like today but a bit warmer. Okay. Now, these are the famous bundles of timber you might have heard some of the lads talking about. 3 dockers and a checker. And the checker was Barney O'Connor.
Super checker.
Well, the super checker, and some of these men have other names for him. Blood and Guts he was called. In that he served in the RAF during the war, and he used to come back with great stories of heroics and how he rescued half the population of Europe. But we all had our little stories, but he was a great storyteller. Now that's again, what we heard earlier, 2 men unhooking 2 babes. There's 4 ton in that timber, and it's a ship called the Mungo, unhooked the ropes and the chains. And needless to say, at one occasion, those tipped over and one of the men was seriously injured, not those men. And it can happen very, very, very easily, but that's the way it was then. This is more to do with the local workers. This was the soap factory, Levers, in Sheriff Street. And this was taken way back pre-war. And they seem a happy group. And quite a few of them. The lady on the left is the mother, and she's still alive, well into her 90s, unfortunately fairly frail. And she is the mother of one of our members who was not here tonight because he's busy having to look after her, Brendan Dempsey. And they worked way back then, and it seemed it was a very good job, but this is what we're trying to preserve, not only just the docks, but the whole inner city area where all these factories, like the soap factory, were. Now, this unfortunately is a picture from the last day of the Dublin Dockers. They were 2 of the last. One was a checker, Tom Murphy, on the right, and then a Style on the left, the docker. And that was taken on when the last of the dockers were let go. And since then there's been no more taken on as Dublin Dockers. They're all mainly outsiders now from Russia and Poland and every place. So time to move on.
What year was that roughly?
What year was that? Was it in 90?
90s,
Late 90s.
This man was, that's the checker there, but that man there, Dennis Style, Dennis came from Ringsend, and he was a very clever man, but would tell you himself that he was totally, he didn't know how to read or write or anything. But on one occasion, Dennis, well, be brief, Dennis on one occasion, I happened to be the foreman on this timber boat, and Dennis was a forklift driver. And the previous Canadian timber boat of 10,000 tons of timber lumber came in, and they started, out there was the road, they started the stacks there. But what they did was they put the first lot of stack up, we call it tiers, and tiering. But they started the first tier and they made it very high, and then they kept working away. So when, subsequently when the ship was gone, the guy delivering would be delivering from this side, and he was hitting the bundle, and the stuff nearest to the road collapsed and fell over, and 2 of the port and docks men in a van were almost killed. They were away for a long time. But so when the next one came, the harbour master was there, and he saw me and he said, "Paddy, I want to talk to you." And there was a superintendent there, a fellow called Carl Keaveney, and he said, "Paddy, I want the first bundle on that tier must be 1 high only. The second one will be 2 high, and this third one, and step it in so as that there will be no more accidents falling out of timber, falling onto the road." So I said, okay. So I wait for the first forklift truck to come over, so stop him, and he said, happened to be Dennis. So I said, "Dennis, listen, as you can see the brass is here, the checkers there has his orders and all the rest. You have to put just 1 high. I'll be telling the other drivers you needn't worry, and then there'll be 2 and then 3 and all the rest, but the front here has to be just 1. Dennis says, "Okay, foreman," even though he knows your name, that's the way he talked. So he's heading back to the ship, and suddenly we were watching him going away. He knew the harbour master and everyone knew him, and they're laughing at him going by, so off he goes, and he's halfway back to the ship, and he does a U-turn, and he comes back, and all 3 of us knew, Dennis is going to have something to say. So he said, "Excuse me, gentlemen," he said, "I just thought of something." He said, "When Paddy was telling me about the going to make sure, just 1 high in the front tier, I just thought of something that Abe Lincoln said to Sherman in the famous war." So Captain Lawless was the man, and he said, "What's that, Dennis?" "Keep the front tier safe."
Dennis was famous for his story.
Oh, he was great.
That's another day. Can
He's
we
now deceased.
go on?
Now it's a great guy.
Now, this is a ship called the Laird's Glen, loading cattle. Now, some of us are here tonight are old enough to remember when the cattle roamed through Dublin from the market down to the ships. And for the good or bad, those days are long gone. But the amusing part is to see the 3 children there on the left just being allowed in to watch. It's like being saying 3 children onto a building site. I don't think you get away with it now. Okay, Niamh. And that again, my parents need to be hogging all the photographs tonight. And that is holding a selection of buttons. Again, those buttons all were donated by Brendan Dempsey. They belonged to his father. And the buttons, funny enough, when in the early days it was given out every 3 months. And that was to make sure you paid your union dues. If you gave in your money, you got a new button. And then it was extended to 6 months, and then 12 months, and then eventually they didn't give them out anymore, they just went on paperwork. So move on, Niamh. Again, by talking about the health and safety, when that ship or that vessel goes back, there'll be allowed 12 people on it, at the same with the wear the safety and life preservers and the like.
Thank you.
Thank you. What about 30 there? And that was common. They would be packed, and funny enough, I think there was only 1 or 2 deaths in all the years, people on those ships, and that was where they were in an accident with bigger ships going up and down the Liffey. But it's gone now, the bridges are there, and so it'll just be a tourist attraction when it comes back. Okay, and this is our latest project, the Waterfront News. That was a magazine, come paper, published by people on the docks, the factories, the deep sea and the cross channel, all got together and brought out paper. It ran from 1961 to 1973. It actually ran from 61 when probably Dublin Port was at its peak. The 70s when all the containers started coming in and the BNI and that all moved away from the North Wall. It died out obviously because there was not enough people left to support it. And it's their objective to get all the copies of that together and put them online. And that's about it then. Thank you all for listening.
I was looking through the running order of stories for this. There was I remember the section of health and safety. In the last show, I didn't really have a song kind of pertinent to the topic. So there was one song that I could think of that had anything to do with health and safety that I'd heard before. It was recorded by the Dubliners in the 70s. Some of you might know it. It's called The Sick Note.
Very cool.
Dear sir, I write this note to you to tell you of me plight. And at the time of writing I am not a pretty sight. Me body is all black and blue, me face a deathly grey. And I write this note to say why Paddy's not at work today. While working on the 14th floor, some bricks I had to clear, and to throw them down from such a height was not a good idea. The foreman wasn't very pleased, he being an awkward sod. He said I'd have to carry them down the ladders in me hod. Well, moving all these bricks by hand, it was so very slow. So I hoisted up a barrel and secured a rope below. But in my haste to do the job, I was too blind to see that a barrel full of building bricks was heavier than me. So when I untied the rope, the barrel fell like lead. Hanging, clinging tightly to the rope, I started up instead. I shot up like a rocket till to my dismay I found that halfway up I met the bloody barrel coming down. Well, the barrel it broke me shoulder as to the ground it sped. And when I reached the top I banged the pulley with me head. I clung on tight, though numb with shock from this almighty blow. The barrel spilled out half the bricks 14 floors below. Well, when the bricks had fallen from the barrel to the floor, I then outweighed the barrel and so started down once more. Still clinging tightly to the rope, I sped towards the ground, and I landed on the broken bricks that were all scattered around. While I lay there moaning on the ground, I thought I'd passed the worst, when the barrel hit the pulley wheel and then the bottom burst. Well, a shower of bricks rained down on me, I hadn't got a hope. As I lay there moaning on the ground, I let go of the bloody rope. Well, the barrel then being heavier, it started down once more and landed right across me as I lay upon the floor. Well, it broke 3 ribs and my left arm, and I can only say that I hope you'll understand why Paddy's not at work today.
There's one for to drive it, one for to guide, 4 to fill it in the darkness inside. And you'll work like a miner, shoveling coal, scraping the floor deep down in the hold. I'm telling you, Jack, life's not the same when you spend your day loading that 100